the situations, and you know what I did? I have a spreadsheet that I printed and did not bring with me.
Put it out for the next meeting.
No,
Send a policeman to your house.
Scott has it. If he would, I'll ask him to just go print eight of those.
You want to keep talking?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because the spreadsheet has the detail, and I can't believe, I carried them over here this morning to show them to Scott and then left them on my desk. So, it's been that kind of day, week, month.
You want to take a quick recess? Anybody need to?
Yeah, we can take a quick recess. I'm not going to talk about it while
Need a break?
Phil's out.
Sure, I can always use a break.
All right. Do we need to formally recess?
Yes.
Okay, so let's recess at 6:50.
Take a 5-minute break.
5-minute break.
Pause this. Oops, sorry.
I can't believe I did it.
What'd you do?
I printed a spreadsheet for everybody,
Yes.
and I left them on my desk at the office.
Oh, dear.
But Scott has it in the folder in the file that I sent him. So, I have it in the file here too, so I can just send it to everybody. You can look at it on your own. Not everybody's got their computers. It doesn't work. Much over.
Oh, yeah. So there's full responsibility, whatever else. You were driving all the cars on that? Hear about this?
Yeah, can I get 6 copies of that, please? Thank you. I just left them on my desk.
The doctors don't get any good deeds done with me when they let you sit in the, that's not in the waiting room. That's in the examination, 2 hours.
This is pretty cool.
It was, I throws,
Oh, okay, yeah.
I can just send it over on my screen.
just looking for other things, you know? Now they're trying to tell my wife that it could be a complex migraine she's having, even though she don't have no pain, and that she's got this numbness and foggy eyes. She almost complains that when she's looking at something, it looks foggy. And they always say, blurry? No, not blurry. It looks like a little bit foggy. They want her to try a prescription.
Breast cancer.
We're still throwing darts at the wall. I know. Well, that would sure be an easy fix. That's what it is.
She went to there to start her treatment, and they did an EKG on her.
Why does my dad always call me every time?
So she's on hold.
You probably forget.
She won't be.
Oh, yeah. Or maybe he thinks he'll get you out of it.
Her sister,
Maybe that's what
our
it
younger
is.
sister.
Yes, sir.
Went through
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
cancer the same time she was.
Pass it down, please.
Thank you.
Has developed tumors in her abdomen. Surgery.
Oh, here's Bill's copy.
Thank you. Surgery will be in the next week. And I have a sister-in-law who's a doctor, and a sister who's a nurse in hospital. They're just gonna go to Atlanta and take care of that.
There you go.
We'll talk after this.
All right, Deborah, you ready to reconvene?
We're waiting for Scott or no?
He said go ahead and start. He's already
Okay.
seen it.
All right, well, he has, it's true. Okay, so as I was saying, this
Oh, wait,
is,
let's reconvene
oh, sorry.
at 6:54.
Good, great timing.
Thank you.
Okay, so essentially, we have 29 paper streets in Castroville. And that's the oldest map I can find of Castroville.
Wow.
This was on a flyer that was being circulated around Germany and France in the 1840s.
Golly.
And it had Castroville in the lower right-hand corner and New Braunfels in the lower left-hand corner. But you can see each of those streets was designed to intersect the river. And I would imagine that at the time, lacking running water in the city, everybody made a daily trip or more than one daily trip down to the river to collect water. It's the only source you had. So those roads were a necessary point of access for the public to maintain life and livelihood. Oh, darn it. Oops, it did work, okay. The one thing that's not on that map is River Road. I'm sorry, go back. Is River Road, which starts at Mexico Street, which is 5 streets from the south, or from the bottom up, and then winds along the river out of town. And this is this is a map that is dated 1869. You'll see that the River Road is on that map. Because those 40-acre lots that were built along the west side of the river had to have access one way or another. So that road, in fact, the distances that are listed in that little paragraph underneath it are varas along the river road for each of those widths of those tracts. So that river road has been there for a very long time. It is by prescription a public easement. So this is the first.
You can back up one time.
Mhm.
It's old because we're Bear County at the time.
Yeah.
And if you don't mind backing up one more time, or to the cities, yeah. You'll notice there A is Houston Square, and then C is Odin. That was Bishop Odin, so that's St. Louis Church. D is, I think, that's the Pope.
The Pape.
Yeah. And then, of course, the church also has B.
The school.
Which
The
is
old
a
gate.
school, so that,
Yeah. Those are pretty historic sites.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Say again? They're on the list. Yes, they are. This just demonstrates the history, and the crossing, the Flat Rocks crossing
Oh, yeah.
was a recognized crossing at that time.
What was it called?
Where are you looking at? I'm not.
Above Bear County.
Oh, I see it.
I
Okay.
can't read it on
Common
this either.
crossing or?
Yeah, I can't read it on this one. I have a better copy, but I couldn't scan it.
Yeah.
So, starting at the northwest end, and we're going to go clockwise around the city. So the first street that, those labels are wrong. What's called Athens there is Ranchero, and what's called Chateau is Athens. That demonstrates the veracity of our appraisal district. I'm not going to go there. Anyway.
Be careful.
We may or may not have given him that map.
The paper street here is the extension of what is actually Athens labeled Chateau that drops down the bluff, crosses River Road and goes into the river. And what I did is I went and took some pictures. This is what it looks like from the river up.
Yep.
Not very accessible. This is
Not like vehicular accessible.
not
No.
anything,
No.
I'm afraid. Goats might be able to climb that.
And there are goats over
And there are
there.
goats, but this is Ranchero and Athens at the top of that bluff, obviously not open. This is not inviting anyone to use this as access to the river. And if you go back all the way over to Washington Street, that is Athens at Washington Street, where the drain goes into Garza Creek.
And that drops off pretty good too.
And that's a huge ravine down there. So, this one is not problematic in terms of the neighbors having trouble with people trying to gain access to the river. Algiers Street, same situation. It crosses River Road, drops into the river. The owners of those properties own the lots that intersect the river, but they do not own the streets. But unfortunately, they act as though they do. That is actually Garza Creek. That sits in Algiers Street.
call that Garza Creek?
Is it I think it is Garza.
I've never heard that term.
This is the street from Washington Street, and it is fenced. The home on the right there owns the lot on the other side of Algiers Street and basically has incorporated it into a single yard. That's the driveway that goes back to that home. But again, I don't see anybody attempting to use that as access to the river, because the first thing you're going to do is fall into that creek. So you're
And
not.
then you'd actually have to cross the River Road.
And then you'd have to
Yeah.
cross River
To
Road
get
to
to the
get,
river.
so you've got public access from River Road. So if we go back
Yeah.
here,
Right there.
yeah, you'd see that from River Road, that is actually a 41.7 foot right-of-way down to the riverbank.
Wow.
The same thing is true of Constantinople. Yeah, it's the same situation. Constantinople, though, has a city drainage structure in it. The map is a little bit off. Those lots do cross Old River Road and extend all the way to the river, and so does Constantinople Street. So, and this is how that looks at the River Road.
I never even thought about that.
Yeah, so that cable is actually across the road down there, but I completely understand these landowners who don't want people going in there and then covering their property with trash. And I told Scott earlier today that I have stopped at the Flat Rocks Crossing many times and picked up bags of trash because that people are inconsiderate. This is what the other side of the road looks like there. Again, this is not enticing anyone to use this as public access to the river. That's Constantinople at Washington Street.
And by the way, these, go back one picture, these were all part of that. Scott, these were the
Bond?
features that were put in as part of that street
Yeah,
improvement.
I think these are
drainage.
older than that.
No, these were.
I think these are a
No,
lot older
this is
than that.
2002. Well, this,
2002.
Okay, 02, I can believe.
some of
yeah.
this might have been here before 02, honestly, but a lot of that, the other stretch, like carving it out, and I saw pictures from the before and after from 02.
Yeah.
Did that work. And then that concrete embankment that you showed, I've got pictures from underneath it very recently. About 3/4 of that embankment down at the river level is washed out. So, and the
It's
same
not-
thing is true on the bridge going into our subdivision. You can actually stand underneath where that concrete is
Yeah.
poured.
Stand
There's
under
more than
the
6 feet
riprap.
Yeah.
of-
It's
of
undermined.
Washed out.
Every time we get a major rain, it caves in, and it's slowly eating away back towards, into those people's yards and everything.
Well, but it's also caving in back underneath the bridge, which
Yeah.
is not good. So we've got some maintenance to do there, but that's
Yeah.
part of that drainage, so.
The history on that is that in 02, when we did have that big flood, the water, debris backed up on the 471 bridge at the Medina River just north of Lacoste. And when the water built up, it ran around both sides of the bridge and washed everything away.
Yep.
And so for a couple months, that road was closed because there was a big chasm on both sides of the bridge. And so we don't want that happening in your
No.
neighborhood.
No.
So Mexico Street, which is labeled Old River Road here, that also, you can see in that image, there is a fence line that comes down the edge of the pavement and wraps around and follows the road around the curve. So that's a fenced public right-of-way as well. It does not cross River Road after that. So, I hate saying this because, somebody could walk over and say, hey, that's a public road, I want to go down there, but it is. I can't change that fact. On your list, you have the names of the adjoining owners. In this case, it's Aguinaga and Regosa. And Mr. Aguinaga, I believe, is on the left. Regosa is on the right of Mexico Street there.
That's
And-
the old river road is the road to Flat Rocks.
Yep.
Okay.
Mexico Street, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that, where you see right here, Old River Road, so going in that north, or going that upper.
That narrow path that has
Yeah,
no
that's-
ID number in it,
Yeah,
that's Mexico Street.
That's Mexico Street.
Now, the other thing I have here, and we're only just getting into it now, is that the city has some interest in this. You'll see there's a column here for electric, phone, water, sewer, drainage, pavement, and whether or not it's physically open to the river, and then what kind of terrain you expect. So in this case, The terrain's not bad, it's sloped, it would be accessible if it weren't fenced. And I'm not gonna say anything more.
What's your primary access? What does that mean?
That means that some people are using it to get in and out of their property. In this case, no. You'll see
Okay.
that
they're
later
using it
on.
as a
So it's a
private-
primary drive.
It's their driveway, yes.
Understand, got it.
Any questions? Well, after you look at that, that one really doesn't have a lot of, these first four didn't have a lot of city improvements on them. The funny thing about this is that District 1 is on the uphill side of River Road. District 2 is on the downhill side,
Yep.
so I represent the turtles and fish that are on the bank between River Road and the river. Now, just so you know.
Even though they're all the same property?
Oh, yeah, I know. So some of those people have dual representation in council. That's pretty good.
So which side do they vote on? Where the house is?
Anyway, moving on.
It's
So
interesting.
this is Mexico Street at the bend when you're looking down toward the river. And this is Mexico Street from Washington Street. So, that, everybody knows this road. It's used quite a bit. Moving on to Naples Street. Now, you'll see here in Naples Street that this is primary access for some people, physical access. Well, physical access to the river, yeah. Primary access on Naples Street is Wilson, Stevens, and Belcher both use that as their access to their property. So you can see the driveways on both sides.
Technically, would you call that a paper street? Because the city paves that street,
Well, it's
right?
paper after you pass the Belcher's house.
I mean, and how do you define a paper street?
Well, in this case, it's not paved. It is public, it's legal public access to the river,
But not maintained by
but
the city?
it's not physically accessible because it looks like that down at the end. And it's going to go down a very steep slope.
Okay.
So
Kind
that's
of
what,
like the next one, huh?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so physically, it's physically not accessible. You really couldn't use this to get to the river.
But you could use it to get to the last,
Get to the
Residence.
top bluff, oh, absolutely, yeah.
yeah, so to the last, beyond the last residence.
It's inaccessible, right.
Okay.
I'm looking at every street, because
Yes.
every one of them is different. So
Agreed.
Amelia Street, again, you've got people using it for their primary access to their residence. And then after the pavement ends, it goes wild and is again fairly steep into the river bank.
Right.
So physically inaccessible, not commonly used, people aren't using it. They haven't established any
figured it
pattern of
out.
crossing it.
So basically, beyond the pavement, that's where it turns into paper street.
Yeah,
Okay.
What?
yes,
Is it beyond the pavement, it turns into a
paper street.
Well, it's a paper street the entire distance.
Well, no, it's got pavement and utilities in it.
Oh my gosh, okay.
I mean, if it has, basically, the paper street's my understanding, and Paul, correct me, it's a street that's not maintained by the city with a
Yeah, it
pavement.
exists on paper only.
It's on paper
On
only.
paper only, correct.
But you're saying it don't start at Washington, the paper street?
Right.
No, it starts where these utilities and improvements, city-owned improvements end.
Okay.
I think that's a debate that I had with someone, it might have been with Herb or Bob, I can't remember which. I debate a lot with those two folks. But-
Well, you know,
We
and-
talked about what the terminology is, so it actually is important for us to get the same term, and I agree. So for our purposes, when we talk about paper streets, we're talking about the unpaved, unimproved portion of roadway that belongs to the city.
But we do have situations, yeah, that is what we're talking about, but we do have situations where you have pavement like this that goes partway down, but the rest of it is accessible and people are using it.
Correct.
And
But-
the landowners are having problems with trespassers and trash and
But when we talk
other.
about, my point is terminology, when you say paper street, you're talking about the unimproved sections of roadway, whether they exist or not, or being used or not.
Sections of right-of-way.
Of right-of-way.
Yes.
Of owned right-of-way that the city possesses that are not, they only exist on paper because you wouldn't know that they're there. You might see, dirt tracks, but that's a dirt trail as far as we're concerned, that's not a road.
Right.
So, it legally belongs to the city through easement, public easements, just like every street in our county.
No. It belongs to the city because, and I'll let Paul finish.
Castroville was established by the King of Spain, and in those days, the king kept all public property. When it became Mexico, the sovereign kept the public property. When it became the republic, the sovereign kept the public property. When it became the state, so on and so forth. And when it became a county, the county kept the public property. And when it became a city,
So we're unique.
So, no.
very
well,
relatively unique in Texas.
There are a lot of instances of this throughout Texas, but, and Paul can speak to those, but here, just so you know, it's not like every road, because in some roads, we just have a right of way. But where where we had these originally platted roads that were sovereign, we actually own that. The people on the other side do not own it in the middle of the road like they typically might in some other city where there's been urban sprawl. Here, it's not just a simple right-of-way. We own, and where that becomes important, not for here, but it's water rights and mineral rights and all that other stuff that transfers with land value. Those, if you were a landman and there were an oil play in this area, that would be very important to know to the city, because that's all revenue that belongs to the city, no one else.
Well, the reason I asked that question, state law, when you talk about public easements, which are the streets, then if it's a street that's not being used, a property owner can petition to gain, they don't really gain a lot, but they can petition, but you're saying in Castro, really, they can't do that.
Well, the distinction here would be between these roads and River Road.
Okay.
River Road is an easement that was established by use over decades and will continue to be established by use. If that need to use it goes away, that land would revert to the previous owner.
If they request it, right?
Now, in a subdivision, a modern subdivision, when those subdivisions are filed, there's a statement on there that the owner dedicates to the public the use of all streets, alleys, rights-of-way, drainage easements, and so on. If the use of that area reverts, or the subdivision is never developed, all of that land reverts back to the owner, or the current owner or the past owner. So those dedications didn't exist when this happened. These were granted by the King of Spain, and this King of Spain kept everything he didn't grant.
I appreciate this presentation.
Yeah.
That's
That
very
goes up a lot.
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's I did not know that.
That's a bluff right there too, ain't it, Paul?
Yeah, this actually is an interesting, because those who grew up here and maybe went to St. Louis School, probably hiked down this road because there's a set of concrete stairs down there that goes down to the river.
And there was a barge that went across the river.
Trolley that went
Yep.
across the river with a rope
Yep.
and a boat. And these school kids are pulling themselves across the Medina River to go to
Go to school.
Camp Caruca.
That was Amelia.
She
You know
was,
Amelia?
she was probably a Castro,
She's Castro's daughter.
yeah, Castro's daughter.
Really?
Actually, his daughter-in-law.
Oh, she says wife. Wife.
Amelia, I'm sorry, wife. You're right.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm glad
Don't hurt him.
correcting me.
Good thing Priscilla's here.
She's the only one buried in Castroville, that's correct.
Next to her.
Is that right?
Her daughter-in-law.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry?
Right.
Fiorella's what?
She's, but Henry is buried in Mexico City.
And Lorenzo's buried in San Antonio, and
Monterey, okay.
Yeah,
See, I
yeah.
can't get anything right.
Amelia.
I'm gonna go on with what I'm prepared for.
Amelia and Lorenzo's wife, Amelia's daughter-in-law, are buried together.
And then there's Angelo, he was also a Castro. So Angelo Street, again, intersects the river. It is developed only to a certain point and then drops drastically down into the river. This one drops through a bamboo forest, so
I think that's close to my sister's house.
it's very close to your sister's house.
There's one over.
That was her
It's a
favorite,
bamboo
that was her
forest.
favorite neighbor there on the right. That was her, the person.
Bamboo forest.
Okay, moving on. Lorenzo Street, another Castro.
Most unusual.
Again, situation's the same. At this point, the bank of the river is starting to shallow so that there is physical access. You could drive down there if there was a road. In this case, there is no road, and again, I think at the end of this one, there's still a bamboo forest. I have been down there, but not recently. And so this road isn't even paved. This is probably the first paper street that has no city in, let me double check,
Yeah, it has
Lorenzo. has no utilities, no nothing. So that is probably our first true paper street. And these people are using it for access. It is their primary access, and they park in there all the time, but they don't have a driveway in the front, they don't have a garage. So that is their point of entry to their property.
But they turn left and turn into their property.
They can, I think, but I often see vehicles parked right in the
Right there
roadway.
with the road.
Then we go around the corner to
Here
Berlin
we
Street.
go.
There you go. There's
Here we go.
tracks right down to the water's edge.
Yep.
So this one is used regularly. That's that's Kinnick Park on the right.
Mm-hmm.
And on the left, you have
Boyce and Bame.
Boyce and Bame. You're correct.
Boyce is misspelled in that first little clip there.
Sorry.
That's all right. Just want to point that out.
I got that from the appraisal district. Sorry. So again, this is technically at some point a paper street. I think the pavement ends at the driveway or shortly after the driveway.
Yeah,
into the
Boyce's.
second house. And
Yeah, and there's not a clear road to the river from past Boyce's house like it's showing there. There's a huge pile of dirt or
Yeah,
debris there now.
there's somebody's
that's
piled a
kinda
bunch of
hinders
stuff
it a
down at the
little
bottom of the
bit,
hill.
but they're still using it.
Could you back up
Yep.
to the corner? One more. Right there. So basically, that's Washington Street, right?
It's Washington and San
So
Jacinto.
Washington does not have a paper street
No.
that extends out?
No.
Okay.
It elbows there.
I wasn't sure about that.
No.
Go on. I'm sorry, thank you.
Those lots have been replatted. They originally were pie-shaped, but they got rearranged a little bit. If we go back to the original map, you'd see how those were originally laid out, but somebody got an extra lot out of there.
I understand.
So Berlin Street is paved probably a little more than halfway down, and it drops pretty quickly to the river down there, but it gets a lot of traffic, and Boyce is one of the people who complains to the city regularly about people leaving trash and other unmentionables in his yard.
Yeah.
And I think at one point, the city put a closed sign at the top of the hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, here not too long ago, I
And,
believe. At the other side too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, we have this, that's Berlin Street,
Yeah.
and then
Vienna.
Vienna's got the same situation.
Yeah, they put, the city put barricades just past, Tom Clemick uses that as the entrance to his property,
Uh-huh.
about halfway down, but you can't even say that road is paved from up on top.
No, it hasn't been paved in years.
Oh, it's
no.
pretty pitiful, other
Yeah.
Well,
than Wayne Rogers cleaned it up for St. Louis Day a little bit, made it usable.
Yeah, he did a great job.
the home that used to be on the second lot on the right was Watmura's, and it was
Correct.
washed away or was
2002.
destroyed in 2002.
Yep,
And he moved out, and they left the concrete pad. Now it's the world headquarters, so.
correct.
And that is the main.
Something, I'm not sure what.
Yeah. And
Those
for
are-
Canning Park, that is, those two roads are
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
entrance
That
and
and probably the
exit.
two biggest public accesses to the river in
Because
the
at this,
city,
at these two locations, you can actually put a kayak or canoe in the river.
all the time.
Yeah. And I
I've
think
launched,
those,
I haven't launched a boat on Vienna, but I've launched a boat on Berlin.
Right.
It just, it's, you gotta have a forward
these are
truck
very
to get
attractive
out.
to visitors, very attractive to visitors.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, with the church owning one side of it, and the kind of traffic that they rely upon these streets for, it's unlikely they'd ever be closed.
You'd be surprised how.
One of the issues that I wanted to address is, public safety. And that's really I think that's the only avenue that we would have to putting some kind of a closure there, is public safety, whether we're protecting the property owners or we're protecting the public in general. But those are the concerns, the considerations that you and I get to make, so.
Well, and along with those lines, I think we need to consider if we're gonna leave those streets open, and I think that's kind of a cool deal, but, we'd have to somehow manage, maintain, clean them up. I don't know what you do, but those property owners ought to be compensated for having to deal with that.
Or protected in some way or other.
Or
Yeah.
close everything down.
Remember when the attorney was here and we were asking these questions, he said, well, you know, some things you can do is put no parking signs. But
People
during
ignore those.
Caney Park, during St. Louis Day,
Yeah.
people park right up and down those streets.
Oh,
with no
yeah.
signs, So.
Yeah.
Well, and the
We have
city
to be
did put some
careful.
barricades up right past Tom Klimick's entrance to deter people from,
They make paper
They
bags
just-
that fit over
they
those
just-
no parking signs, so you.
they just started parking further up the hill and walking down with
Yeah.
their gear.
Yeah,
But I
You
think
know,
that we
so-
start looking at them individually. This is a really good overview. I think we start looking at them individually to find out where the problem issues are.
Yeah.
And this is a great,
that's a start.
great matrix,
It's a
yes.
start.
Keep going. I like
Yeah,
that.
keep going.
Okay, so that's Vienna Street.
Right.
And again, it says, come on down, yeah, let's go see the river. Houston Street, it's the next one up the hill, around the bend. Again, you have 4 owners on Houston Street, 2 Foxworthy and 2 Harts properties. There's there's electricity in that road. I don't know if there's water. I don't know if these multiple homes are being served off single meters or not. I did look into that. But again, it looks to be open and it's probably pretty attractive. I do know that pavement stops at the top of the high bank and it's a grassy slope down there. And I think this one might have a chain across it.
I think it does.
And I was told that that's there because people get down there and their 2-wheel drive vehicles can't get back up the grassy hill. So they end up stranded. Now that could be a health and safety issue. If the water were rising and somebody got stuck down there, then we'd be doing a rescue. So that one's considerable. Petersburg Street's kind of the same situation. Again, we have Guzman on two lots on the left, Oliver and Burrell on the right. And they are all using it as access to a point. And again, it turns to a grassy slope, kind of right at the end of that first driveway, at the north end of the street there, where it turns in to the right to go into Burrell. Burrell actually crosses over the Oliver property to get in and out.
You can see actually a dim road to the water too.
And there's a track down to the water. Yeah, I've driven down there in a 4-wheel drive vehicle, had no
Really?
trouble.
Would you say that these last 2 properties, this one before, that the city maintains the street to the end of the second, to the end of the second
It
property?
does look like that looks like city. I don't think the private individuals put that asphalt down.
Okay.
So I think the city put the asphalt down. It may not have done it in the last 30 years, but I do believe the city built those roads up.
It almost looks like maybe that's a mailbox down at the end of the street, or is that a post for a chain?
There is a chain across this one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's not at the end of the street. It's actually back in the grass a bit where you can't really see it.
I think that is a post, I mean, that's
Mailbox?
their mailboxes,
Yeah.
they're out there.
Yeah.
Right next to the truck.
Yeah, mailbox, yes. All right, next up is Madrid Street. Now, this one has great potential because nobody sees a street when you look at that.
Wow.
You see a front yard.
That's a true paper street.
That is probably our first true paper street.
Wow.
And probably has decent grade to the river. I've never been down there.
Yeah, it's pretty steep. You couldn't get a car down there.
Couldn't get a car in
At
and
the
out of
very end
there.
of it, yeah.
Yeah, towards the back, it drops quickly, yes.
What are we doing?
Yeah, you wouldn't even know it was there, other than a few tracks that somebody left in there, I guess. But, so that would
Is
be our
that
first.
Van Winkle's house to the left?
Madrid is Fairmont and Flores, according to the
Oh.
appraisal district.
Maybe was.
Maybe was, yeah.
That's Lynette's house, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And next up is Paris Street. Now we're looking at, you can see in this photo, there are electric supply lines coming across the river there. So the city has a vested interest, CPS has a vested interest. Access is important. It is primary access to both of the residents on either side.
I think I saw sheep grazing on the other side of that.
There are sheep on that right-hand side occasionally.
She's gotten rid of them, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she has to, well, they now have to mow the grass.
That's
Got rid of their sheep.
So this is obviously not paved. It's, privately graded, gravelled.
Got a chain across.
and down the hill.
Yeah, right across-
Yeah,
right
in fact,
over
it
the
may be
edge.
a real fence down there on the borough, from the borough's yard across.
I know,
Brock's
J.D.
Yard.
Brock, of course, owns the one where the sheep used to be. The people across it, if I remember right, they store a travel trailer down there below, and that's their access to put the travel trailer in their backyard.
Yeah, they do have significant parking in their backyard, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
they're in and out of there a lot, so.
Yeah.
All right. So this one, you'll see that it has, electricity crossing it, but no other apparent
No drainage.
purposes.
Yeah.
No structures of drainage, yeah. So that's Paris Street. Next one is London Street. You got Andermatt on the left and Davis on the right.
Andermatt is the big two-story old house?
Yeah, he's in the
Big
Sears and
porch.
Roebuck,
That's the Sears and Roebuck house too?
I think so.
I don't think, no, it's
No,
not.
it's not.
That actually, that house was built.
It's a replica.
Replica?
Well, it was built by Joseph Coran, who had the Coran store back in the 1800s.
God.
And it was
That's a
the
beautiful
son
house.
who built that to try
It
to
is a beautiful
entice
house.
the bride out here.
I mean, back as a kid growing up, it wasn't so pretty, but they made it pretty.
I didn't catch the house, but
Used to
What
be
now?
Hilton.
There's three in town.
one right across the parking lot.
No, they've never been able to document that one.
Oh, really? Okay. Interesting.
They
Interesting.
They
There is
got a big sign
Yeah,
there.
there is
Yeah,
a no
actual-
trespassing sign right across and a chain across the road.
Yeah, it looks
Well,
like-
if you go back to the one right before that, the overhead, there's actual sheds in there.
Yes, oh yeah, well, I don't,
There's
I
actual
don't,
what?
I don't trust the appraisal district for their location of those lines. I'm not sure his shed is
Oh.
approaching. See how far away that red line is from the
Yeah, the
pavement?
lines don't look quite true.
He may be partly in the right of way there, but he also, I know he has had people savage his storage building back there. In fact, I think he lost a Harley Davidson out of that building once.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah,
In the city of Castroville?
I talked to him.
Talk to him.
They took mine too.
Yeah, but yours was sitting out on the road for months.
You deserve to lose yours.
God, I thought that was yard art.
All right, moving on. Okay, so essentially this one has, if it could have physical access to the river, but I don't think anybody gets past Vince's chain. So, Lafayette Street, now we're talking about some serious traffic. This one you can see from the Highway 90 bridge, so I imagine that you get people who are coming across the bridge, see the access to the river, take two rights, and they're there.
I've launched a boat down there.
And it is accessible vehicularly right down to the water's edge.
And you can see where he's put the road,
Stones.
stone down there. And
Yeah,
There's a fence on the side, on this side as well,
Right.
so.
there's a lot of work being done down there by
Yeah.
people on both sides of the street.
Yep. Yeah, this is an aged photograph. There's a very nice little patio down there in the one on the
Yeah.
south that you can also see from the Highway 90 bridge. So,
a lot of nice landscaping been going on down there.
yeah, and again, Scott and I debated, I think there is pavement here. I think he thinks there is pavement here too. It's just, this was a rough day on that road, so. They do park on the shoulders and they track a lot of mud up and down that street.
But just because I just learned it this week, Helen Delavan told me when they paved the streets of Castroville back in the 50s, every homeowner paid a portion of fee to pave the street in front of their house.
Yep.
So in this time, these were all paved the same time the rest of the streets.
Right.
If you didn't pay the fee, you didn't get
Well,
your street
those
paved
are
in
all
your
points
house.
of access. I mean,
Yeah.
you've got 4 structures there that access from that road, so.
Yeah,
Right.
high traffic.
Yep. All right, and Highway 90. Now, I have to hand it to the appraisal district. They did get that right. The lot on the north side of the highway extends to the south side of the highway.
Really?
It's wild, right?
Yes.
Holy
Well,
smoke.
I double-checked today, and I pulled the right-of-way map, and if you look at items there, I turned it upside down to make it north. Lots 1 and 2 on the left side there. If you go to that document, it is an easement. It is not a deed. On the right side of the river, That is a state right-of-way right down to the riverbank. So you have right-of-way on the east side of the Medina where you could have public access to the river. You have no right-of-way on the west side.
So on the east side would be on both sides you have state access?
Yeah, you've got up there where it
North
says,
and south, you
where
mean?
it says Fritz Droit Court, that is the beef
Bill
place,
Miller's.
Bill Miller's.
And the Steinbach House on the other side.
Steinbach House is on the lower right corner,
Okay.
where the bridge, see the bridge abutment, the old present bridge?
Yeah.
That bridge abutment is the Steinbach's parking lot.
There you go.
They built the parking lot on top of that bridge abutment. The other bridge abutment is still there too, and that old road pretty much goes right through where the Steinbach House is.
Right.
Right. The original roadway. So this is a great little glimpse of history. This
Very
was
interesting.
Make it
about
really easy for landmarking
1920.
folks to get over to the Steinbach and vice versa.
So that's probably a 100-year-old map.
Yeah, and that was the old truss bridge.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Be
Wish
great.
she'd have turned it right side up. So I could read it. I'm having a hard time reading it backwards.
Well, back then they didn't put top of maps north.
No, they did that because they were using sign tables from Europe, which were always going east. So in order to use them, they had to draw upside down. So they always put, the right-of-way maps always had north down. because
For
they-
real?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
And that was until probably 20 years ago. So there's a wee bit of history. So the Texaco station, or the Shell station's on the upper right, Bill Miller's on the upper left.
Right.
And I think somebody was pointing out the other day that those two corners on the upper right where the Shell station is, those are right on the corners of the concrete, right, just practically underneath the awning where the pumps are. So all of that asphalt outside of that concrete, that's all public right-of-way.
Wow.
And there's the lovely highway. So I had to take that while crossing with the light. This one's interesting. Again, don't trust the appraisal district's location for the red lines on the landmark Inn. It's probably up around the front of the building rather than through the middle of it.
Right.
Notice that the right-of-way is actually larger than the first lot, so that puts it at about 90 feet.
Is that still a paper street?
They don't have a deed for it,
Okay.
but they take possession of it.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a fight I don't.
I always assumed that the city
I-
would turn it over to them.
I don't
but-
believe, I think I've read the deed for the landmark inn, and I don't think it
Yeah, you
incorporates
believe
the street. Yeah, I will double check though. But this one's not a fight. They manage their gate very well, so.
And they allow public access, not
They do.
driving, but they allow people to walk down there
Right.
freely without charge.
Yes. Done it many times.
Yeah. And you can get into the river and canoe
Yes,
upriver.
you
into the lake
you
from there.
can wade or swim or fish or whatever you want down there. So yeah, this is a great spot. I used to like to go down to the dam and fish off the dam.
Yes.
Caught a few good bass down there.
When you
All
have
right.
time.
When I had time on my hands, yeah. So Lorenzo Street, the other end of Lorenzo Street. Lorenzo Street down there has a guy by the name of King on one
Yeah.
side.
In Brown.
And
You
Brown
built your
on the
whole
other
house in the paper street.
side. They put
Guy by the name
they
of
put your
King.
entire, your old house in this middle of the street, didn't they?
I gotta correct your thing though.
Okay. It's not, that's changed hands since then.
Well, no, the primary, no, you got Brown right. That's actually,
Oh, it is your primary access. I
it
take
is
it
my
back.
primary
Yeah,
access
that's your
to the
driveway.
garage.
That's it.
Wow.
Yeah. With-
Cobblestone?
I'll make that,
But Bill King entered into a licensing agreement with the city of Castroville to allow me to do that.
Yes.
And also, there is drainage under there.
yes, okay.
And
Did I
you don't
get that
show
wrong
storm
too?
drainage.
Dang it.
Storm drainage under your road?
Yeah, you missed
Under
that.
the paper street?
If it rains in St. Louis, if it rains in Houston Square, that's where the water comes out.
I'll be doing.
There's an underground, about a 3-foot diameter pipe down deep, and then
Well,
see
you got
where
a
the
steep-
dead end and
Yeah.
and the fire hydrant is.
That's a steep drop down there, right?
After you get past the house, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, but right there where the fire hydrant is,
yeah.
everything, this side of 90, that's where it comes out on both sides. And then it goes underground back to where that little wooden fence is there.
I stand corrected on my
Yeah.
assessment of access and drainage.
Now, the access is that you can't drive down there because 1 foot past that, you drop into,
Oh, it gets steep back there.
yeah, it's a drainage channel.
you
So
ever-
there's reflectors on that, but then people can and people do walk around there and go down below. So we,
Really? You have people go down?
yeah,
there?
we're pretty open about letting people go
I've been down
We've never
that
had
slope, I
anybody
know that
crash
slope
down.
way too well.
Well, you can't get the cars down
They
there.
can't get their
You
cars.
can get them down.
But you can walk down
Yeah,
there.
Get 'em back
you
up.
walk. In fact, I've built a bridge that goes across the mill race and then goes out to the, because you know the mill race is down there. So we built a pedestrian bridge, people can walk.
I need to come check that out.
Yeah, you really should. It's really, really pretty down there. I've been down there a
My
couple times.
grandkids will enjoy that.
Oh, no, yeah, bring your grandkids and good fishing down there.
All
Oh,
right,
1,000
so that's an
people.
open invitation, everybody. Fishing at Phil's.
As long as they don't mess it up. If they
Paper
mess it up,
street,
no trespassing.
open access.
All right, moving on. Angelo Street. Now you have, on Angelo, you have former Mayor Kelly on the north side and Sally Coyle and her husband on the south side.
No, that's Dorothy Season's old house.
And Lloyd and stuff.
Oh,
Sam's down on the
oh, it's changed hands, okay.
That used to be Dorothy Cease's house.
Oh, I'm sorry, that is wrong, okay. That's not Kelly, that was Houston Marchman's then, before it was
That's correct.
sold recently, okay.
And then now it's Tom
Yeah, I
Phillips,
did it again, so.
retired Chief Justice of the Texas Supreme Court. And then the bottom house, and by the way, they've replatted.
Yeah, that has been
property, which you did.
replatted. There
Yeah.
is there's a property line that cuts off through the clearing in there. I don't know my pointer, yeah, right there,
about
right in there.
yeah.
And this little cabin is now a separate property. And if you step out of the backside of that cabin, you better be prepared because it's going downhill quick.
And that is a city-maintained street there.
Up to
That
about
back house.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit closer than that.
A little bit.
Yeah. So this is the picture from the top. And that car right there parked in the center of the screen, that's probably the last place you could put that car.
Correct.
So I'm sorry I got that wrong.
And there actually is a berm up there.
Oh,
with a
Kelly's a
pipe
block
through.
over. That's
Kelly's
right.
a little block over.
Yeah,
So
okay.
where that car is, there's a berm, so the water can't go directly over, but
Right.
it goes through a pipe.
And
so
there's
it
a
kinda
big pipe,
funnels it
there's a
down.
big pipe down there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so that's surface drainage.
okay. Amelia Street. Now, this is another illustration of the appraisal district. Watch this. That line is actually there. So that is a paper street after a point down to the river.
And that actually, yeah, that's not primary access for either one of them.
Dang, that's a hell of a pool in the backyard of somebody's house there.
Nice pull back there.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that Welch person, that's he's sitting in the room.
Very nice.
So when's the barbecue pool party?
Very nice.
Yeah, okay, we'll move on.
When are you gonna be out of
This
town?
this is his paper street, and that one I think would actually qualify again as a true paper street, this block, because there is no development, there's no utilities.
Can you get to the river?
Yeah, but you can't get back.
Can't get back.
Yeah, but he still had people that drive down there and go back basically to his backyard because they see on the maps, it shows it as river access.
So they go as far as they can?
Yeah. Yeah, there's terracing back there on the private property, but not on the river, not on the paper street.
Oh.
So. Okay, and moving on.
Moving on.
Again, the appraisal district kind of muffed this one because there's a line right there. There we go.
Oh, there you go.
That's Jeff Gardner's.
Yeah, that's the Gardner residence on one side, and who's on the other side? Why can't I find myself?
Caulk.
Caulk.
C-A-L-K.
Yeah,
That's what it
okay,
says.
There we are. So this may also fully classifies a paper street. There are some utilities in there. I think they just cross over. I don't think they go down the hill.
Wow.
That's where the 5-foot drain is.
I think
Big old drain pipe down there.
Right down the middle of the street.
so it's running out right down underneath you there. There was a deep.
That's the one you can see from the lower.
Big pipe.
From
On
McDonald's,
the other
starts
side, you
from
can see that
McDonald's.
from Lower River
No,
Road.
but I mean, on the opposite side of the river, you can see it really well.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Where it comes to the river.
Oh, yeah, sticks out.
And by the way, that's another O2
Yeah.
drainage project.
Yeah.
That's what we'll have to do on
Amelia.
Athens Street.
Athens or
That's
Amelia,
the same
Bigger,
thing.
bigger pipe.
Probably bigger, 8 feet instead of 5.
That's a lot of construction.
Pretty deep,
All right, and moving
big
on.
bucks.
Mexico Street, the other end of Mexico Street, and you can see that this is being used as access to a couple of the homes,
Well,
both of the homes.
That's my house.
And
Yeah,
again, I
still was
believe
more
at this
rough
point, you
coordinator
still have a
too.
pretty steep
he bought
bank.
that place.
Yes.
My father-in-law built that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
heard I know
exactly.
something about this street because my right shoulder was looking at his house when I was taking this picture.
Was it by that heated swimming pool that's in the middle of the Gentiles?
By the way,
That's the Gentiles pool.
this is a unique
They don't
building.
have a pool.
It does now.
There's a pool next door
If it
neighbor.
rains.
Which one?
Herb, you see that elongated building there on the right of the photo where the property line
Crosses
goes
the
right in the
property
middle
lines,
of it?
yeah.
And it has two different colored roofs on it?
Yeah.
That's a single building owned on two different pieces of
Right.
property.
Yeah, Dan built it and it straddled the property line.
And then sold.
They got the right side developed now. I think that's where the pool is for those neighbors. And then on Dan's side, it's just been remodeled and made into a guest house.
I
Really?
think I surveyed that. I've got a real nice drawing of that property.
I always wondered how they got the sewage up the hill, but I found out they don't.
They don't.
Septic?
goes-
Well, no,
Just
there's-
put a grinder pump on it. You can put a, that's like,
Does it go down a hill?
your house.
That's bad.
Your house has a grinder.
Especially if you swim at Rodriguez Park.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. There's what Herb sees when he goes out his front door. So,
Herb, I know your parents had that house, right?
Yes.
That's, the city put in that street, you think? That's a city street?
I don't know who actually put it in, but it's only got pavement about just past the edge of the house. So I would tend to agree with you that he used the JP at the time, and you know how it goes.
You could
It
pull
was
some
always
strings.
full of highway state troopers parked over there every day.
Well,
Really?
also, he would have paid to put the street there
Yeah,
when they were putting the
definitely.
streets through.
Yeah.
all right,
Judge.
next. Constantinople. Now, this one was in front of the council a while back, and we talked about the fact that he was running a business on what appeared to be a city right-of-way, but I was going to show you that plat.
Yeah, thanks for clearing that up. That was good.
So the paper street goes across.
There is a paper street there. Constantinople is a public access to the river, but the pavement dips down across the Young's Crossing.
Oh,
So lot one,
Lot 1 is also Rodriguez's, they just didn't replat it.
which goes across and down, yes, okay, makes sense.
There is a plat that just creates the road, I didn't pull it, but
Okay.
Algiers Street, kind of the other end of Rodriguez Park, so he is using it for access to the river. And obviously gets lots of traffic, because I see 30 cars in the parking lot.
really? I didn't even realize they were parking from Algiers. I thought they were all
$15 a
coming.
car.
Well, I knew they were,
Not in the right-of-way anymore.
They have, well, they used to have picnic tables in the right of way.
well, I thought they were coming from Constantinople,
Yeah,
Both ways.
both ways.
yeah.
Interesting.
So obviously, this is a well-used point of entry into the river, as we were told by numerous neighbors a few months ago. And I think what looks like white water right up in there is probably just people splashing around.
Seriously,
Yeah.
Very possible.
Yeah,
Actually, that big tree on the south end, in the middle of the street, they lost that tree during the most recent storms.
yeah.
Really?
It blocked the entrance.
Pardon me.
You could
And
drive
I've seen a water moccasin right about there.
Why don't you put a sign out there?
We used to drive through the river with our trucks there. As kids, that was a challenge. Don't use the bridge.
So that's the view from the top of the hill, from Gentile Street. Athens Street, now we're getting into some neighborhood we know something about. Pardon me again. It is being used as a point of entry by Hancock. His garage faces Athens Street and the second home on the north side there.
And Mango.
Mangold's, right.
That's recently built.
Yeah, in the last 10 years, yeah.
Walter Shop, Custom Homes. Rest in
And,
peace.
I heard Robert Hancock say one day when it was raining, he tried to back out of his garage, and when the rear wheels started heading for the river, he figured he better get back in the garage.
It
And the
runs a
city
lot of water.
maintains the street
And this
past
is,
Bob's.
yeah, they maintain it a good ways down,
Just
and it's
right.
also swale shaped. It's not there's no crown on this, it's a trench. So the middle runs faster than the edges, so.
It was, but you said it was rebuilt this way, right?
I actually did some of the survey work with Frank Kennedy for the city. We gave them the data, they designed the swale and built it.
When do you think that was?
Late 90s.
Okay, so this can't turn from a crown street to a.
There's a high spot right behind you. in the
Yeah,
river
there's a
on
high spot right
Athens
there
Street,
that
right?
makes water
That's
build
the
up in
problem,
this spot
right.
where I'm standing, yeah.
They lowered it a little bit.
But it still funnels
still
it down.
actually down.
It brings it in with velocity too.
Yes.
All right, and now we're talking Geneva Street. So this one is,
Can I pause real quick? I don't know if you heard that, Michael. I know you live here, but one of the things that Herb has mentioned before, and I know that y'all were just talking about as well, is that at the top, it acts as a little bit of a dam in a weather event. The water hits right there, and it actually pools there instead of continuing to go because there's a little bit of a high spot.
it slows down, it slows down.
Actually, from the picture taker behind you, what's the cross street?
This is a Geneva.
Gentile,
Or Gentile.
Gentile.
Kind of middle of the road
Looking
in
south.
hills or something.
I mean, that's what it appears to be.
It rises to
We
his
could grind that
driveway.
down and make it a V, it would make that go.
But Scott, what I said in an email earlier, I don't know who I think I know I sent to you, I may have sent others. I think I did, it sent to everybody. Really, the city ought to put up some signs. People who live here know that's high water and it rain, but we really should say.
Yeah, well, there should be
River
depth
crossing.
gauge. We need
The
those
flood
signs that say
gauge.
Yeah.
it's,
Seriously.
deep.
Just for liability reasons?
Well, and also just, you don't want someone
for
like
safety
Bob said, he
reasons.
was washing down the river.
Just for safety reasons.
Yeah. So this is the one place it really needs it, and then the other one.
Okay. Geneva Street at Gentiles.
By the way, that water backs all the way up the hill.
Oh, I know, I've seen it.
To
I've
Paris.
got a video of it last time it rained.
Geneva?
I drove it in
Down
my
the
truck.
bottom, all
I'll
the way to
video
the
it.
top.
Oh, there ain't nothing there.
So this one is another
why-
true paper street.
Oh,
house.
and by the way, going back to the one we had before, this is the only project that was not done from the 2002
List.
list. So there was 5 or 6 of those. This is the only project that didn't do it. I think this project back then cost as much as all the others
Well,
combined.
and we'll just say this, so for the record, that was 20 years ago. 20 years ago, that project cost as much as all the other projects combined. And now, what do we think it's gonna cost?
About
2 to
5
3
times that much.
Well, easily 2 to 3 times.
It's obviously not gonna be cost.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
And Bob Hancock, by the way, was mayor at the time they did that, and he also said that, even though he would love to have done that, as mayor, he couldn't do it to his own house.
So that's what Geneva Street looks like. There are a couple fences from the home on the right that cross all the way over to the fence on the left side, to Hancock's
And
fence.
this one is not used, this one should be used for drainage, but it's not used for drainage. What happens if you go back to that other one is up, I don't know, go back one more. So you can see where it would come down from Geneva up to that little tiny piece right there.
Yeah.
And it actually curves there to your left, down
It
Gentiles.
diverts the water?
It diverts, and then it goes in between,
Well,
that's the,
Bob Hancock built a pretty significant channel right right in there.
Bubbly.
Bubbly, I mean, sorry.
And that was to handle all of the stuff that really should be going straight down Geneva, because it just, I mean, it was like,
Except Geneva's on the side of a hill. See, the water is going down Gentile, it's not funneled like the other,
Yeah,
so it's
down
going
down
that
is
way.
this way.
Yeah.
Oh,
Now, you could turn that into a drainage feature.
you could
but
maybe
was
make it
never a
flow,
drainage
huh?
feature.
Just cut it.
Yeah, this spot is actually pretty flat. I mean, this
Yeah.
is kind of the top of a ridge.
yep,
And whose house is that on the right?
That was,
Dabowski's.
yeah,
I'm sorry?
Dabowski's.
Dabowski's.
And then on, of
Which
course,
I
on the
misspelled.
left is Bob Hancock's.
Oh, yeah, Bob Hancock's on the right. Bob Lee's on the right.
Yeah,
Bob Lee's further on the right.
It's the next one now.
this old iron fence, that's Bob Hancock's fence.
That's been there forever.
Yep,
Did you ever replant that Tabasco's
I did. The Dabowski's replatted and then decided to move to, yeah, see, the county's got that one.
Oh, man, that's weird.
And they decided to move to Concan because that's where his work was every day, so,
Oh, okay, that's why they moved.
yeah.
Lakey.
Lake, well, yeah, same area. And it's one end or other end of the same road, but anyway, the ranch is in Concan.
Moving right along.
Moving right along.
Getting close.
Jackson Street. We know something about Jackson Street here. So.
What do we know?
It's another paper street. It's in Bob Lee's back front yard,
Huh.
and that's what it looks like from the road.
Holy smoke.
He owns the property on both sides.
He does on both sides.
Oh,
The one on the right is for sale.
I could see why he wouldn't want to have access.
$173,000 cash offer, you can call Bob.
Yeah,
That's what he
That's a free
said?
plug, Bob.
That's
No,
what the
there's a
sign
sign
is,
on
right?
it. Free plug today.
Oh,
Free plug
Free plug.
over the city internet. That's great.
We're just trying to help our citizens, right?
There we go. And of course, then we have Alsace Street.
I think Ron Boyce has made that same comment too.
This is our current mayor's home on the north side and regional park on the south side.
Dang.
And this was, so, just for clarification, a couple of pieces on here. It is paved down to the entrance to the RV park.
You really call that pavement?
Yeah, kind of.
That ain't pavement.
Got it.
Yeah, it is paved for a while.
to the gate that goes
To
into
the
the
gate
RV
into the
park.
RV
Yeah, the
park.
back gate.
But
It's
it's
kind of a half paved.
it's skimpy pavement.
Do we got a permit on all that work being done on the left there?
Yes, sir. Everything that needs it has it. Trust me.
You want something sharp to put in with?
Darren gets
I'm
everything.
not gonna give you my.
Permitted.
So I think that actually on the right-hand side of that, I'm almost positive the force main goes up there. Not the force
Oh,
main,
yeah, the sewer.
the sewer goes up on that side. So you said no sewer, but there is
Yeah,
actually
It's
sewer.
crossed,
Station's
it might
down
come
there.
up the road,
There's a
yeah.
lift station on the right.
Lift station on the
Yeah,
right,
down
and
at
the
the
force
bottom.
main,
At
the
the
force
very
main
bottom.
comes all the way from Constantinople to this location, so.
That's where the airport comes out. The pipe from the airport,
But that goes-
goes
yeah,
that
that-
lift station at the bottom of the hill.
Exactly, it goes there, and then it
pumped up.
lifts it from there. I think it comes up, if I remember correctly, it actually comes up like right by that dead end sign. That's where it comes up and then goes up.
No. It
It's a little
goes-
farther
It's on the other side.
It's on the
It's in your back
Other
there.
side of the swimming pool, it's on that road there.
Okay.
Because you can see where they put
Inside the
those
park.
steel pillars, that's where it runs.
Gotcha, all right. Because I thought they had dug something
It's-
up and put it in there.
Really
In
can't
fact,
see
see
the
where
lift
see where it
station
says
around.
Alsace Avenue down there?
Yep.
That's where and then you can see the lift stations. They came out there, went up Alsace Avenue, and then go.
That's what I just said.
The lift station
Well, no, but
down.
you're.
No, the other
this
Alsace
avenue,
he's
not
looking
the other
at.
Alsace.
Oh, the other one, okay, cool. And then the other thing is, it is
Yeah.
not accessible.
Way at the bottom.
Right.
If you go back to that other picture that you had, it is not accessible.
Highlight the lift station, put your deal, put your cursor.
Did you show it?
I
Down? No, it's not.
No, further down.
Go all the way down.
All the way down.
Oh, down here.
There you
To
go.
the left, go a little bit to the left.
No, that's it.
Right, yeah, that's it, right down that area.
Somewhere right there.
Right outside the fence. I think it's
Yeah, there
that
is
brown area.
there is a gravity flow
Cement
sewer line that
cover.
comes along the river, and I guess that goes all the way to the airport, right, Herb?
Really?
Yeah, it goes.
It
goes-
crosses that.
I don't know exactly where it crosses the river.
It crosses just south of the Constantinople River crossing.
Well, there's a force main and there's a gravity flow.
And it has
Too.
gravity flow there. It's forced Well, it's lifted over by lower, it's lifted, and then it's brought gravity flow to here, and then when
Right,
it gravity
lifted-
flows
lifted
to
again,
there,
right.
and there, then they ran it.
We sure spend a lot of time and energy moving.
Yeah.
poop.
Poop moves downhill. That's a engineers learn that right away.
So, what our situation is that we have a handful of true paper streets, but the question is, what do we do with them? We have citizens who want to have those deeded to them or to their neighbors or both. We have people who want barricades, we have people who want some sort of signage or fencing or something to keep people off their property.
Compensation.
So, I mean, and the thing is that we've got probably 4 or 5 of these streets that are true paper streets, all the way from intersection to the river. But the majority of them have got the city relying upon them, the neighbors relying upon them, and there's really not a whole lot we can do at a point, to a point. You know, if you get, I'm going to do some backing up. Don't get any vertigo, you guys.
Yeah, like even the street next to Darren's house, there's high-power utility lines that run down to the lift stations there.
Yep. Yep.
So like this one.
So this one is pretty much just vacant, and if, my fear is that if we decide to, well, one of the things is because this is truly property of the city, it doesn't revert to the adjoining owners. The city would have to sell it, and the city would have to sell it probably at sealed bids.
They have an ordinance that prevents that.
We established an EDC, so.
We could sell it through the EDC.
We have an ordinance that says paper streets will not be sold in perpetuity.
Well,
Look it
Well,
up.
that eliminates that option.
But current councils cannot bind future councils, so.
Okay, I'm just saying, there's an existing ordinance.
We can
that says-
change an ordinance
Yeah,
with an
you can
ordinance.
change, yeah, you can change an ordinance in the ordinance. So there is, but I didn't know about that, so thank you for letting me know.
When was that done? Herb?
I'm thinking about 12 years ago. There was a period of time when this was one of the major topics of
Oh,
the
yeah,
day.
it was everywhere, yeah.
And it was an action that was taken to curtail the discussion. Because there was many people who wanted to sell them and many who didn't. So I said,
Yeah.
we're just going to say we're not selling them. And they passed
Well,
some kind of
I
an
don't know
ordinance.
that that's a bad policy,
Yeah.
but because, well,
That's some discussion.
So what
It's
Paul and
part
I
of the
talked
discussion.
about was trying to classify the roads, and I don't know where you are at in your presentation, if you've kind of wrapped it up, but
I wanted to probably go back through them with the group and say, okay, candidate or non-candidate for possible sale? I mean, let's just entertain the possibility.
I think that that's actually a much longer conversation that we should probably walk through when it's not 8 o'clock. This is a great presentation. You did what I had asked each one of us individually to do. I commend you. And way better than what we would have done.
Most of my clients get this treatment, so there's nothing.
Well, there you go, that's a plug.
Another shameless plug.
what I was going to suggest though is that we classify what we talked about. I really wouldn't get, I'm with you, I don't think we get into whether we sell or not sell them tonight.
Okay.
Or which ones you sell or not sell, but specifically if there are, what we might want to do is establish.
Or if we could sell.
Establish or classify the streets into paper streets, purely paper streets, no advantage to the city or neighboring owners because they're not using them as access, right? Paper streets that are being used for access, right? And I think you've done this as you go through. You have ones that are used for primary access by the homeowners, right? That have safety-related issues because I know that a number of those drop off precipitously. So that's a safety concern that might exist for the city. Then look at, are there any others that are used for primary access that have some other issue, whether it be
Power lines
utilities,
or- yeah.
power lines, or
Drainage.
Drainage, right.
That reminds me, I didn't mention.
And then
that.
once I think you classify into those three categories, what remains is probably nothing or very little. Because I think they're going to fall into one of those basically three categories. Either they're really of no service to anyone, they're green and they're not being used, or they're being used for primary access, or they're being used as drainage. But I don't, do we have any drainage ones that aren't used for primary access? I don't think so, right?
Yeah, and Phil's is privately paved, but it's still his point of entry.
Right.
I did want to mention that the power lines on Amelia Street, those cross the river as well. Those go all the way across over to Camp
That's a
Carrollton.
major transmission line.
But the one property up by Dr. Best's property is not primary entrance, but it is that's a drainage. Not the one on one side of him, I think.
Yeah,
This
definitely.
one.
Constantine,
So that's,
serious drainage structure in there.
yeah,
That one.
that one.
You do have them, I mean, on your spreadsheet, you do have design, you do have them identified in that way. I mean, you've got under primary
Yeah.
access, you do got.
I did miss a couple drainage structures on the
Sure.
south side of town, but I didn't go wading the river to see where we were.
I say
Well,
we sell the one at the.
We can't talk about that.
No, at the Landmark Inn, we sell that to the state for like $10 million.
That's perfect, I like that
I
idea.
like the way you think.
Good luck getting them to buy it.
All right, so you're gonna put this, this is,
I'm going to give this copy to Scott, and we'll put it on the SharePoint.
okay. And then the spreadsheet as well?
And the spreadsheet's already in his file. We'll make sure that that gets distributed. I would have done it, but I couldn't figure it out.
Thanks.
Okay.
All right, great job. Thank you.
Great
You're
job.
welcome,
Thank you.
welcome. Let's ruminate now, so.
Ruminate, revisit.
So I have a folder labeled drainage, do you want me, I actually have I think there's a folder labeled streets, and then in streets is drainage, so I'll put it in that streets folder. And
Yep.
we'll just call it
Perfect.
Paper Street.
I also included in the folder that I gave you the city's GIS drawings of water lines, electric lines, and sewer lines. So those are in the file. We can put those up as well.
Cool. Thanks. All right, next item, consider and take appropriate action on awarding a contract for the 2021 street maintenance program.
So, give me 1 second, I'm gonna just let Mr. Winford know that we'll get ready for you.
Let the minutes reflect Artie is leaving the room.
I thought he was gonna get to speak. I'm sorry.
Do I just unplug this thing, Scott?
Yes. So, I appreciate Michael Persona being here with KFA, with K-Freeze. He's been patiently waiting for this item, and probably, hopefully there's some good information as we talk about paper streets and other things over here for the rest of the meeting. But we did receive bids, as I think I shared with the council. Most of those bids were considerably higher than what we were hoping for. Did you want? I think I have a report. Yes. So in your council packet, you will see the engineer's report, and Mr. Persona is here that can speak to this. As you'll note, LCR was the lowest bid. They are officially the lowest qualified bid because we did some additional due diligence following the bid opening to just ask some questions of this contractor, better understand the history. They are a newly formed company, but they have quite a few years of experience in this thing. Again, their low bid was $239,000. What we originally budgeted for this project was $190,000. So that additional, should we approve this moving forward, this bid, you would also be approving a budget amendment for the balance to be paid from fund balance. A reimbursement resolution, should you want to pay yourself back with a bond. I don't know if it's entirely necessary, frankly, but we can certainly do that at the September 28th meeting. You can see that, again, the spread between the low bid and the highest bid was $622,000. And some of that, sometimes, contractors they'll throw a number out there and they'll think, boy, I hope I get this job, but they aren't really wanting it. And that's the same experience that Herb spoke to earlier with just trying to get a contractor to make a repair. I mean, not that we couldn't got them to do it at any price, but they're tied up and they're busy and just not that big a job. They got other stuff to do that's a lot more profitable for them. So you can kind of run into that kind of thing as well. Michael, since you're here, would you like to speak and address this?
Mayor, members of council, nice to see you again this evening. There's actually a representative from the contractor here this evening. Should you have any questions for them on their experience? As Scott mentioned, we did open bids, had 5 bidders. Based on the bids and where we were at, I think our engineering estimate was about $297,000. I think that's something we'll work with Devin on. I think there's as you're working out of the pavement management system and actually getting to your actual ground truthing the project, there's things that come into play, whether you do need to replace curbs or sidewalks or those kinds of things that can increase the project costs that are not factored into that all-in price and that basic planning tool.
So you actually you estimated it was going to be at 297?
Yeah.
At what point?
So our original, when we first bid this, we were at 280. As part of this process, we added a few items to level the playing field. Some things that were a little unclear in the first bid item, like should they adjust manholes, should they adjust some valve boxes, and some other items in there that we added in, not to mention some of the quantity items we discussed last time we were here.
So were you part of the conversation when, because the 190 got budgeted in the last budget year, so that bid this time last year. Do you know if y'all were consulted during that?
We weren't, and I think that's, I think we'll be sharing more information as we get this to update, because it's a really good planning tool that Devin and the team has based on the iWork and all their scoring of the streets. It lets them go in and assign project costs, but it's very broad brush, so it's a good planning level. We just need to get those prices to more accurately reflect market conditions so that you can plan better.
For your information, I mean, I really do. I try to take what the engineer gives me, and I increase it by 20%. Before I bring it to council, and it's not because I don't know when you're going to pull the trigger or if you're going to pull the trigger, and I'd rather give you a high number and come in low or lower than come in really, really close. So that is, I appreciate you saying that, because, and I know he updated his iWork numbers based on some information y'all shared recently.
Yeah, so something we'll be looking for real carefully as we go into the next set of planning.
So this parent bid, a low bid is about 20% under your estimate, which is
It's
good.
About, yeah, we did, so we were not familiar with LCR Transport, so we actually contacted Mr. Craig Kronka with LCR Transport to talk to him about it. We actually had a meeting with them last week to kind of run through some items, learn more about their experience as a firm. And I think that's in your council packet, but we went through the exercise, and we feel like they are a qualified contractor. They have the experience. It helped the city out in that they're a new contractor, and they're sort of building their resume, if you will. And so they're coming off of a job in Blanco County. And so I think the timing was good. They're very hungry compared to some of the other bidders. Without getting into the weeds, right? We got questions during the bidding process that said, hey, your schedule seems aggressive. Can we extend the time? And a lot of that's because they're busy, right? The time is reasonable if you have the resource. If you're very busy, they're working in overtime and that kind of thing to make the schedule work. So we actually think the schedule is very realistic. Talking with the apparent low bidder, right, the schedule seems very realistic. They part of the reason they were able to reduce their bid compared to our estimate is they think the schedule maybe is a little longer than they need. So there's some labor savings there, right? We said 62 days. They think they're going to do it in maybe 50 something, right? So that's a substantial amount. When you add up crew days and equipment costs to get charged to a job, it does add up. So again, our recommendation is to award the contract to LCR Transport.
With that, I'm going to borrow for a little golf list. If we want to look at that, if y'all don't, fine. You've got it in your packets.
I think we got it in the packets. My question is, what staff's recommendation was not to do the ones that we were looking at, but change that over to some other ones? Okay.
Yeah, so the original bid, the original process, we were going to do several streets in River Bluff and a couple of streets in Country Village. Now, the ones in River Bluff, I think Sheena and I have talked about, like, I don't know how those got selected. I think in some cases, the other street that's just next door to the one that we were going to do is actually worse and probably needs to be fixed sooner than the one that we selected. So there's some of that already if we were to continue to do those. But staff recommendation is based on the feedback we got from council about the street standard that we're going for, is that if it has a curve, we want to go back in with asphalt, which is really what we're going to see in the newer subdivisions as well. If they've got a curved street, they're gonna put asphalt down. And keep in mind, this is for your benefit, but also for anybody else that's listening or in the audience, just because it's asphalt doesn't make it a better street. The street, the real value of the street is in its base and in how solid that base is. What you put on top, and there are a lot of TxDOT roads that have chip seal. There's nothing wrong with chip seal. A lot of the roads out there are chip seal. But they're not, they also have 18 inches of base in some cases because the TxDOT went in and established base, they asphalted it. Then they went in and rather than doing asphalt, they chip sealed the top of that, but they reestablished their base and chip sealed. I mean, so there's some of that goes on in the state. I just don't want people to think that asphalt's automatically better. You still have to make sure that you're building the right road and building it the right way, and that's part of the reason we've got Michael and his team assisting Devin and our guys to make sure we start out right with this program. I don't think it's going to be necessary to engineer all the streets, but we need to get the starting place needs to be right, set the right foundation. So what we're recommending based on your feedback is not doing those curved roads that are currently identified in Country Village and River Bluff, but rather choosing the same amount of square feet, but doing it in chip seal where we've identified that as a standard. So from a bidder's standpoint, it's not any less work. It's the same amount of work. It should be very similar, same amount of costs. There actually might be a little bit less in terms of, in River Bluff, there was quite a bit of demo that was going to have to happen. The base was pretty thick in places. So we're recommending that first. You've got a list of all those roads in their current conditions. So you can tell us where you'd like to see that done. Our logic is in choosing one, making it so that you're getting the biggest bang for your buck in some ways, not trying to spread them out and get everywhere, but let's do one road that we know is really, really bad, that totals the same amount of square footage. And the one staff is recommending is Berlin Street, and it's just based on that. It's based on square footage and current condition and its location. We can knock that thing out and get it approved. But that said, the first order of business might be for you all, one, to award the contract tonight, and two, then decide, do we want to continue with the streets we've identified, or do we want to try and choose some other ones? And if you choose other ones, do you want to go with the staff's recommendation, or do you want to maybe do something else? And that's the point where we are in the discussion. Did you have anything to add to that?
No, I don't think there's anything to add right now.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
So my understanding is you're going to do the ones that are listed on the alternate street maps with the green. And you've got Athens Street from London Street down to Lisbon and then from Gentiles to the river. It doesn't make any sense for us to do maintenance on a street we're going to tear up and put a 8-foot drain under.
Well, hold on. The street, what you should be on, there's a page that's called alternate streets.
Yeah.
That's got green lines on it, and then there's another page that says FY21 Streets Program changes staff recommendations.
Okay. Yeah.
And that should only have Berlin and Mexico.
Yeah, but it's not that one, it's the other picture. Berlin and Mexico, I understand that one.
Yeah, well, that's the only one. The other one is simply a look at all the streets that meet the same condition as Berlin and Mexico.
Oh, so this is not going to...
Yeah, I wish we could do all of this, but that's a lot more. So your world to choose from is the green lines on that first page. The ones that we chose are the ones on the second page. And the limiting factor is how much you want to spend.
Okay.
You can't increase, the bid can't be increased more than, I think, 25% by state law.
My only concern is,
Yeah.
we've all discussed
Yeah.
putting an 8-foot drain under Athens Street, and it's one of the green lines, and I'm
Agreed.
just suggesting somebody should remove the green lines.
Yeah, we're not going to do that.
I wouldn't want to do it and then tear it up.
Agreed.
How, have we looked at how well these are traveled? Because that's another part of it, is that,
Typically, if it's a street that's falling apart, that means it's well-traveled. I mean, seriously.
I would suggest that we have a street, so your action tonight to adopt the tax rate that you adopted, we will be talking about streets in the very near future, as far as which streets to prepare We're going to talk about what the costs are and throw some estimates together. We might have LCR back, hopefully, if they do a great job this time and want to bid for us again. Next summer, we'll be doing another bout of streets, but we'll be doing a lot more because we're going to have a lot more money to work with. That's the whole intent of this. So I wouldn't get too wrapped around the axle as far as which one, like prioritization, because we're going to have plenty of time to do that in the next go-around, since now we know we're going to do more. I think this really just, it goes down to, okay, these are the worst streets. These are the ones that are zeros. So you could pick any one of them, and you'd be okay with maybe the exception of Athens.
Right.
So really just, we need a motion to
So we're looking to approve the bid.
LCR bid for $239.235 million.
You're looking to award that bid, and then I need some direction from council on, one, if you're okay with not doing the proposed streets, the original proposed, and just doing the same amount of square footage in chip seal. And then if you have a preference as to where those are, if you're okay with staff doing them, then we'll probably do Berlin, but we'll also consult with Michael and maybe drive around and make sure that we're doing the right ones.
Is the contractor on board with that?
Yes, we talked to him about it during the call, but you can speak if you'd like. Would you like to come up and introduce yourself just for grants?
I'm Greg Veronica, I'm with LCR Total Transport. Yeah, we're on board with it, and as far as what he was saying, we call those wear surfaces, whether it's asphalt or chip seal. And the structure underneath is by far the most important thing. Asphalt's going to lower your sound problems a little bit, but on these streets that I could tell, they're all residential, sound's not an issue. So chip seal,
25 mile an hour speed limit.
exactly,
so-
you're not going to have a lot of sound issues. Generally, that's on your FM roads. So I chip seal, I'm on board with that.
The specific issue is just if you're okay moving from the streets to, and I think you would be in part because we're going to try and localize them so your guys aren't all over town.
Right.
They're going to be in one area.
Right, yeah.
Now, the obvious issue is if you got constituents, when's my street going to be done? Well, the good news is you now have an answer. We just dropped a tax rate that's going to allow us to go borrow some money that will allow us to focus on streets. And we'll be putting together a comprehensive streets plan, not just for this year, but for future years, in the hopes that we can go back to the well at some point in the future and borrow some more money.
Okay.
All right. Do I have a motion then? Or you have questions? Sorry.
I got a little difficulty with, and I know you've been vetted by K. Friesen Associates, I guess, and then next highest bid is, our next lowest bid is 96,000 more?
Yes.
Somewhere in that ballpark?
Yeah.
I just have a little difficulty with you not being from around here versus somebody that's trying to do business local. As far as, I don't know you from Adam.
Right.
That's my trouble.
I completely understand. Well, obviously, we have a payment performance bond that covers our work.
Yeah. Well,
I've got tons
we've
of
done a little
experience.
bid before and it ain't been too good to us.
I understand. I've seen it happen. So
Yeah.
I understand your concerns.
So the expectations would be very high.
I understand that too.
Who'd you hire from Ranger, by the way?
I'm sorry?
Who'd you hire from Ranger?
He's a blade operator. His name is Scott Sino.
Okay. Yeah, basically, if you don't fulfill the work,
Well,
then the bond comes in, and then
Right, but
we're
that
going to be
complete-
back at the next lowest bid anyway, so.
that completely defeats our purpose of growing as a business.
Yeah.
Is to not do a very good job on our first couple of jobs, so.
Well, I don't know how we went south on that last stuff 2 years ago. I guess that was 2 years ago now.
Well, there was no oversight over that. That's part of
Well,
my question.
and I think it was designed to fail because I think the city's expectation, I think they did what they were told to do, which is resurface. They didn't pay for, there was no analysis that said, hey, this road really should be reconstructed. No, you paid for resurface, they went out and resurfaced them, they didn't hold up. But I bet if you asked the same contractor, hey, how long do you think this is going to last? He probably would have said, not very long. But hey, he got his money and he got his check. He was there to do a job, he did his job. I don't know that, again, I wasn't here, I don't know what process that went through. We are setting a good foundation with the process we're trying to establish now. And I think now that the deliberate decision on your part to contract this out, staff fully support, and we work for you, we fully support that. It'll be our job to then come up with a maintenance program that can keep these streets, once they've been invested in, to maintain them to a level that they last a lot longer than they have been, right?
Yeah, and in support of that,
as we talked about 3 years ago in council, you don't chip seal bad streets that are failing. You chip seal good streets to get longer life. You
Right,
rebuild bad
even the-
streets.
And that's like, yeah, exactly, Mr. King. Like this project, like, so we had, cement stabilization of the base because of that, right? For those projects, we're gonna rebuild the base because they were in poor shape
River
already.
Bluff.
Right. And something right to your point about, to your concern, Mr. Shearhart, right? Before we get to the performance and payment bonds, right, we're gonna set up pre-construction meeting with the contractor, kind of make sure everybody's on the same page with what expectations are as far as lines of communication, the kinds of things that need to be seen, where the pause points are in construction. We'll talk about their submittals, right? We're going to make sure that what they're submitting is the things that are that they bid on as far as what we expected in the specifications. So that kind of sets us on a level playing field that we're both on the same page with what they're supposed to do. And then we'll do, with chip seal, it's always important. Some people kind of think they're just going to feel it out, but you need to do your test strips and make sure that you get the right amount of oil on the road for what the road conditions are and the right amount of aggregate, right? Get the spreader settings set right. And so these guys do it all the time with all their textile work. Every project's similar but different enough that you just kind of start back at zero, make sure everybody's on the same page, and then you move forward. So that gives you that confidence that you're kind of starting out on the right foot instead of getting done with the project and saying, wait a minute, this isn't what we had expected it to be.
Will you be the supervising engineer firm?
I will be on site periodically during construction, and I'll probably have someone else in addition to myself also on site
Will your
periodically.
firm do the acceptance?
We would, yes, sir.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Oh, one more question. Where are y'all located out of, sir?
We actually have a shop in New Braunfels.
Not too far away.
Not too far. Our primary business for the last 10 years has been aggregate hauling. So we have trucks all around the area, Rio, Medina. I mean, we run 250 to 300 trucks a day on average. So we're all around the area.
I was going to say half his time getting back to New Braunfels is just getting out of Castro.
I bet it is.
All right.
Go ahead.
You ready?
You want to make a motion?
I move that we award the street maintenance contract to LCR Transport LLC for $239.235 million, not to exceed that amount. $239,235,000. We're ready to get all that, a couple extra $1,000.
Should have seen the smile on his face.
And that we approve the move from the proposed streets to the alternate streets as the city staff has recommended.
I think I'll second that.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
I was gonna kick you and I couldn't stop you fast enough.
Well, that's bedtime.
All right, next item is consider and take appropriate action on appointing members and adopting a resolution approving initial membership of a board of directors and bylaws for an economic development corporation in the city of Castroville. Now, I'm going to ask us to do something here. I want to be very, very careful. This is a very important board. I don't want to make an appointment tonight, but I do want to talk about, it sounds like we've got some good candidates for it. I think we should start talking through the candidates and actually go through a process, be very methodical about this before we actually appoint this board.
Well, and I would suggest you may not want to appoint tonight. I don't think there's a requirement to appoint tonight. We are set up to do that, but I would suggest that you have some discussion on what that board looks like, who's on it. You can appoint up to 4 council members to this board. You may want to appoint 1 or none or 4, but that's entirely up to y'all, and y'all need to have that discussion. And then if you're ready to do it tonight, great, but if you're not, if we don't have the names, or we don't have people in places, or you want us to talk more about kind of what types of people you need to serve, what backgrounds, it's not unlike when we talked about the TERS or something else. I think give yourself the right amount of time to come.
Do you want nominees tonight, or do you not want us to?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
So we want to
I think-
collect the names.
Yeah, let's talk about the names that we have. Let's talk about who we think should be on there. Let's just not make a decision on it until we've had a chance to really vet this out. I want to make sure that the people that are on here are solid and can do what we need them to do. And I'll tell you, I personally would like to be on this board. And then if we have another, because they are going to be under normal Open Meetings Act requirements, we can have multiple council people there because it's reported the same. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, I'm just thinking we didn't timestamp anything except for one thing. So it's about 8:25 PM and we're talking about the EDC board. I was just
Okay.
going to timestamp.
So how about if we collect those, send those out, make your recommendations? Do we have some right now that we want to, are you saying you want to?
Yeah, no, I didn't want to have the discussion, have a conversation, see who you have. I don't know, I have not talked to any one of you about what names you're bringing forward. I haven't heard any discussion from you about what the board makeup needs to look like. Like how many council members do you want on it? That kind of thing.
But the only thing we really need to do tonight is,
Talk it over. Talk it over and get prepared so that we can make a decision next council meeting.
Did they adopt the bylaws last time? Or didn't?
Yeah, we already accepted the bylaws.
Yeah, I couldn't remember, because I know we
yeah,
did.
so we said, so,
Well, we have two things, but it says here, appointing members and adopting a resolution.
Right.
Approving initial membership, you want to defer that. That's what you're saying, we want
Yeah, I
to
wanna
defer
dis-
the approval.
I want to discuss it, but not approve it.
Okay.
Well, it's,
Got it.
we're just deciding that's not appropriate, so. Deciding that is not appropriate at this time. Take appropriate action, we're going no.
Oh, yes, that is not, yeah, exactly. Herb, I think that you said that you had some folks that,
Yeah, I went out to a lot of people in my district, and I got a response from Mr. Pat Morentz, who would like to be on this board, and he has been a mover and shaker in the Castroville Area Economic Development Board, and I think he's highly qualified. So I'd like to throw his name in the hat. And I have a second name, but it's not in my district, so I guess I'll wait and see whether Sheena decides to put a name in.
that's okay.
It's in your district. But
I don't think that matters. We're talking,
the other name I was going to suggest is Mr. Arnie Dales. He's been the chairman of the Castroville Area Economic Development Board for a long time. He's been a mover and shaker in this kind of business, and I think we need his expertise. I would defer to Sheena, but I would think he would be a real good candidate. And I have talked to other people who are still considering it, but they would not ready to make a commitment tonight. So I know there'll be some more names.
All right. I don't have no names to give. I'm still thrashing the bushes.
sounds good. You got anybody, Phil?
he's already named one, oh, two of my people.
Yeah.
I mean, not in my district, but people over in the, so I'm still.
Agreed?
I kind of used up my list on the TERS board, so I didn't.
Well, you have time,
Well,
you have time.
So I want to remind y'all, just, so membership, it's anyone within 10 miles of the city limits of Castroville or anyone in Medina County. That's the way that's written. I'm almost positive. I would encourage you to think, just having served with other EDCs in the past, the people who make good EDC members are the people who deal in property negotiations. A banker is very valuable on an EDC board. They understand capital stack. They understand what it takes to make a loan work. They ask the candidate the right questions of a developer that's coming in, or someone else that's coming in and asking for some type of incentive that the EDC may offer in the future, so that they know and speak that language well enough that they know what to ask and what's missing. An attorney is really good to have if you had someone that was an attorney that had time and was willing to serve for the same reasons, that they can provide some legal input and advice and counsel to the other citizen members. Obviously, there is legal counsel on our side of staff. There are, ideally, at some point, the EDC will have an EDC director in years in the future that would provide the staff professional advice. But having those folks on the board itself is always helpful. Having someone that's involved in real estate, whether it's a realtor or a broker or a developer or someone in that field is helpful. In the past, the EDCs that I've worked with have had all those folks. Some of them have been very banker intensive, 3 or 4 different bankers. And that's another thing, is just because you have one, sometimes it's good to have 2. Keep each other honest kind of thing. But just when you think about the skill sets that you're looking for this particular board, I would advise you to think about those types of things. What types of deal making, if you will the EDC be doing in the future, and who could best advise on those types of deals? That was my advice. The other thing is about makeup is, and I still haven't heard from the council, but how many of you all do you want to have participate? You can have up to 4. This is a public meeting, so it gets posted, so that the quorum is not an issue because it'll be posted every time. So whether or not there's a quorum doesn't matter. And I don't have any advice as to whether that's good or bad. I've seen it done both ways. I've seen where there was a majority of the council that was actually the EDC, and I've seen where there was only the mayor that was on the EDC, and it works both ways. So, but I need you all to kind of decide, well, what do you want to do? How do you want to handle that?
I got a question. It's 4 council members or employees. Would you recommend one of those be an employee?
I would not. I've never seen an employee of a city be a board member, and I think it crosses a line. I don't understand why the law is written that way personally, because, you know, staff is there in a professional way to serve, but not to actually vote. And the board will actually have the ability to vote on various topics, and I think that it's like holding two sets, you know, you have both decks. You've got 2 sets of cards that you get to play with. That doesn't seem right to me. So I would not recommend that. I would recommend that once we establish this, I'll be an ex officio advisor, right? So I'll be taking the place of an EDC director, just taking care of the paperwork and any other stuff that needs to be done. And I would recommend that we put Deborah as our secretary, ex officio. What?
I can't,
Why not?
because I don't live here.
No, ex officio, secretary, ex officio. You're not on the board. Sorry. You still get paid. You still get paid, but you're not voting. So she and I would be, the point is she and I would be at the meetings to take the minutes, do the things that need to be done legally, to make sure that all paperwork's getting, that kind of thing. We would not be on the board itself, but we'd be there at every meeting, much the same way we are here. This meeting would more than likely take place in this chamber, so the EDC would meet here, whoever those individuals are, just like our P&Z board does and some of the other boards. They meet in your chairs, if you're not aware of that. So, yeah, that would be my advice as far as staff participation.
And I've served on one before in the same capacity as secretary.
It's almost like
Go figure.
I guess
It's almost like you're really good at this.
Yeah.
related to that, can you ask the question if any other people from the council want to be on it?
Yeah, that's what I was asking. You guys, who else wants to be on it?
I'm torn. I'd love to do it, but I have got so many balls in the air right now, so.
I think I'll have time to be on it, if you want me to.
Yeah.
It has the added advantage of you have to find fewer people. Now you
But
have
then I
to-
also like your advice to include in this other skill sets, and I think that's true.
What kind of turnaround is there on this board? I mean, are these terms, are they?
2-year terms.
2-year terms.
Okay. Well, in 2 years, I might be ready.
Yeah.
I would serve if you can't find enough people and you think I'd be on it, I'd be willing to. I'm not itching to because I'm already on the TERS board. So.
Okay.
The EDC will meet fairly frequently. Once it gets started and we start doing things, it'll be it will meet more frequently. I can't say how often, but I would not be at all surprised if it meets once a month. It eventually is meeting once a month or.
Especially
or
if we
further
start
out.
seeing some action.
The
Yeah.
TERS board, on the other hand, will only meet once a year, pretty much. I
So
mean, they-
I'd be willing to do it. Okay.
All right. Well, let's just gather more names and let's plan on talking it through. Anybody that we're recommending.
Did you ask
should have
Sheena or not?
that. What's that?
Did you ask Sheena?
She was shaking her head. She's like, no.
No,
Did I
you
read
didn't
that
ask
right?
me.
No, he didn't ask
Oh,
me.
do you want to be on it?
No, you didn't ask me if I had names.
Oh, do you have names?
I was waiting for him.
I was.
Okay, it's bedtime.
It's bedtime.
It's not my bedtime.
Oh, goodness.
No, I agree with Arnie. Yeah, see, good night. Arnie, Pat Marantz, I worked with a lot on Boy Scout stuff. Maybe even Helen, if Helen has time.
She
has
told
a-
me she would not. I asked
Okay,
her
okay,
specifically.
okay.
He's running all your traps.
That's all I've got off the top of my head right now. So,
At the same time, I think Pat and Artie are far better than me. So if to bring in these other skill sets, I don't mind stepping aside because you'll be there kind of as our liaison or if Herb wants to. So I'm open to that. Let's see what other names we come up with by the next meeting.
Let's work on some of those other names with the specializations, and then we'll just plan on coming back if we can. But I just want to make sure that we can get like fair representation on each one of those.
I've got a few people I have not talked to yet, and I'd like to.
Okay.
You
you and I are probably thinking about the same people.
Maybe. See if I can beat you to 'em.
Well, I'll just say as business owners are good too. We just, yeah.
Sounds good. All right, so I think there's no action on that one. The next one is consider and take appropriate action on adopting a resolution accepting a petition concerning the possible designation of a 417.848 plus or minus acre area in the eastern part of the city as a reinvestment zone, a TERS, and authorizing publication of notice for a public hearing regarding the possible designation of the zone. And Scott's going to kind of frame this up, why we're asking
Well,
for this.
Clay Benford's here, so I might let him flavor it up. I'll just tell you, we got the cart before the horse as staff. I honestly thought the TERS had already been formed, and we were late in getting the board out there, so we've already started seating the board when the TERS hasn't officially been formed. But hey, we're doers, so it's all good.
No, and it's perfectly, that usually if we go through the board being in place, that's the long pole in the tent, so the fact that we've got that done is a great accomplishment already. So Clay Benford representing the City of Special Counsel, this is a continuation development extension of the concept that we included within the development agreement, that the Alsatian Oaks landowners would assist us in the creation of a tax increment reinvestment zone so that we could have the other taxing entities within the area who are overlaying that geographic area also participate in the cost share for the public improvements that the Alsatian Oaks developers have committed to deliver as part of their overall development plan. Because in excess of 30% of the build-out value of the property will be attributable to residential. State law requires that a TERS be created upon petition of the landowner of at least 50% of the value of the property within the proposed TERS zone. As we had had the owners contractually obligated to assist us, they have delivered their petition, which we have found to be administratively complete. This action tonight will adopt that, or accept that petition, make the finding of completion, and authorize publication of a notice of public hearing, which is a condition preceding to the creation of the TERS zone. So once we conduct the public hearing, we will be authorized to adopt an order creating the TERS, which will then allow us to effectuate the participation of the other taxing entities. Our goal is to have this done before the end of the year.
So if I could pause you, so I want to make sure I didn't mislead the council. I don't think we did, but we will, what I heard you say is we'll accept the petition tonight, then we will go hold a public hearing. We can do that on the 28th. After we've held the public hearing, we can actually establish the TERS.
Correct.
So we could do that also on the
At the
28th,
same
if we
time.
so chose. Okay. Sorry, thank you.
All right, so what we're looking at tonight is adopting a resolution accepting the petition.
And authorizing publication of the public hearing, notice of the public hearing.
Thank you.
That's correct.
All right, do I have a motion on that?
I'd like to make a motion that the city council adopt a resolution accepting petition concerning the possible designation of 417.848 plus or minus acre area in the eastern part of the city as a reinvestment zone, parentheses, TERS, close parentheses, and authorizing publication of notice for public hearing regarding the possible designation of the zone.
Seconded.
Great, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion passes.
I'm going to recommend, Mayor, that we adjourn into executive session and then come back out to finish the last item.
Sounds good. All right, so we're going to pass over that one. We're going to go on to, thank you, to executive session. The City Council will meet in closed session under provisions of the Texas Government Code, Section 551.071, entitled Consultation with Attorney, and Section 551.085, entitled Deliberation Regarding Economic Development Negotiations. The topics are West Side Story, Alsatian Oaks, Clean Sweep, East Berlin, Victory Lane Development Agreement. We're going to go into executive session at 8:38.
Yes. Tell them how, let me guess how long we thought we'd be in there.
I think it'd be real good for you guys to get a copy of this. Do I need to take that along?
I'm gathering up my little pile here.
Bring up your trash.
Okay.
I don't think I've seen you in one pants in like forever.
I'm going back to the executive session, so you can either bring them over here. Yeah, that's going on. And we will do that.
Good to see you. Yes, man. We got a
Y'all leave, it's a lot. You can stay and you can't come back.
Take as many as you want.
Stay in that. Never eat this stuff. Never?
All right.
Good job. Don't drink pop. Maybe we'll get chat, but yeah. We're gonna go get some beers, the three of us, we're working too hard.
For a while there, I feel like being like Batman, just like have a boost card here in the office.
Yeah.
Except I'm like, I was over, I feel like, yeah.
And I will see you tomorrow. Says those of influence.
That's fine.
I will see you tomorrow. Yes, I'll be there. Okay. I'm making the guy from Lexington wait till we're done. Okay. So I'll have to, I'll probably have to leave at 5 or whatever. I'll be there. Well, it'll be over. I gotta go to the sports council.
Yes, cool. Wow.
We're 4, right? Good.
Oh, good. Real fast. I got girls 5, 7.
Yeah.
Starting up soccer this weekend, first games. Yeah. They still hug me when I get home, so. Yeah. I got to soak it up.
That's good.
I got one of them. You're really cute.
Yeah, good figure.
That's my thumb.
This one is freshman and fourth grader, I guess.
And my 6th graders was like, hey, Dad. Something like that. It was really nice.
Are you guys gonna stay here?
I will.
You're one of the ones always on the lot that door, so if you do go out and you come back in, just knock it unless you make it.
Okay.
Okay. And then it just might think that camera's still recording, so. Just keep it. Yeah. Thank you.
Get this over with. This is in
The first exposure to spray cracked me up. It's all being like grandma's last
Which wife wants you into that?
You're amazing.
That is all like, okay.
It's nice to still do community work. It's like, it's like, I don't know if you have fun about it, but that you start it and you go travel. It's really good at all the kids. They did compete every time, but
It's not professional.
yeah, that's what it allows you to travel around.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some.
Which is cool.
Sports these days with kids. All the parents are taking them everywhere, training, and it's around.
Yeah, now I'm down a year.
Big industry.
And they try to find coaches that,
Not to be that great.
Jump higher, but faster. Like,
My name, yeah, so we'll see what happens. Well, they said they want to be landscape architects, so they went to Canada this summer. One's got a scholarship, she wants to go. So they're gonna, they applied there to get in, I think this week. They said we'll know before the summer deadline. So we need to plan,
They got time.
we'll figure it out. It's pretty much their UT or tech, or UTR. So yeah, we'll see. What's funny to me is that they told me last week, I never should have thought Iowa State sends in something every week. Really? Yeah. About on three, this week, just three. But I guess, yeah.
Russell percent statute.
I guess, man, I don't know. They must think they're like, you know. I became a life member there because it was pretty reasonable. You know, start paying every year, whatever, so I didn't know it was 6 years. So maybe that's the thing on a wheel or something, I don't know.
I sent him a letter back and said, Michael, you know, you sent us a check, go start we'll make an application. Send some of my money back. No.
And my girls were like, they sent us so much, maybe just apply.
I heard a crazy thing about college I was cheated. Supposedly like Arkansas was in the same recruit head of the United States. Have you heard of that? Like for student lounge, satellite images. And I'm trying to figure out why. Then I have to go to the smart and came out like all the states that get the most bills on. Smart, pretty high, their tendency pretty high on their their taxes is much lower. They don't have for more use and on college game day, it was like Arkansas is a big place, and Tennessee's a big place. Yeah. Usually they would come to hurry up.
I've got a coworker that went to Arkansas. He was going to go to A&M. He's like, Arkansas, like, called and was like, hey, we can get you funding.
It's a real deal.
And he's like, all right, I'll go do it. I'd never heard of that before. I was like, we recruits other than sports.
And since the nothing.
Yeah.
No.
They can care less, man, if you apply or not. You want to apply, go ahead, man.
Yeah.
That's kind of a good luck, yeah.
I was always jealous of my brother having to go to school in the Southwest. I mean, well, I go down on Friday, try to catch him somewhere, walk the last half of the Saturday, like from class, whatever. Walking across another campus, big, you know, other people, because it's like a little big town, and we're like, you're walking over to engineering school,
Yeah.
which is really, that's the only place you hang out and, you know, fire. Like, it's so damn big.
Most of those people don't talk.
Yeah.
They're always scared when you say, hey, like, they're on.
What's your problem?
Yeah. Do it over again with like a small school, just like it and like this group. Super experience.
Yeah, I went from there to, I would say it was like 24,000 over there, and when I was up there, it was like 2,000. There they call you by your first name, the students, I mean, it's very laid back, you know, I mean, of course, it was kind of nice. You kind of knew everybody.
My dad didn't go to Wyoming. So they didn't know. It was home. My dad kind of used to like the way they got there soon. Like, now you're seeing like their sophomore year classes, all their professors, most of them are not PhDs or their master's level, and they're practicing engineering researchers. So they don't do stuff at school. They'll actually run a design, like one of the professors run a design with students in school, probably like some kind of scheme, right?
Yeah, well, you know, they were good.
They're working on some school building, and they'll do site designs. So they're getting all hands-on experience with the professors. It's kind of neat. It's like, nobody's, that's just a.
Well, don't drop and shine, I got one.
Yeah.
Yeah, anytime.
Summer,
Oh, yeah, so they are recruiting.
I didn't think about that.
That group does a lot of mine reclamation, so they're out in the field, with all the design work. They're pretty cool group.
Guys in here with like Jules and he said, you know, I'm over here, yeah, it's a little bit summer, like, takes such a really good job, or just, they take you out the field, they really show you that, when he's talking about, it's like, I'm not very young, but I'm gonna see you in the office, I'm gonna take you to the job like maybe 5 times,
Yeah.
and the rest of the time you're gonna be like staring at the computer screen, you quit engineering, like,
I want to show you real engineering.
like,
We'll ease you into this.
see the fun stuff, right? You know? So I think, yeah, good summer.
Yeah. Maybe.
Everybody knows how there's something out You guys question the wrong person if you do it complicated.
Yeah.
Shoots. Move there.
So you're on?
Yeah. So you go ahead.
Yeah, that's good.
Don't see it, don't smell.
Good. Good.
Yeah, it's been good. About 40, 5 people.
Yeah,
It's been real steady.
that's good.
You know, we had a Houston office last year, because guys, it's like Asian treatment engineering.
That's good.
Yeah, it's been real nice. Fun guys who like, I don't even know the area. They're not the, I guess they did well, like, normal people who like engineering. So, yeah, good. How did the chapter? I also put up.
Well, just two of us here, well, the two of us here regularly, and there's, three that come out on the kid, they all come by one day.
Oh, really?
And if we go there one day.
Like Daryl, you got two other group here.
Yeah, Daryl's there pretty much full time, you know, but, so Daryl, Maria, David, Taylor, and Jake, and then we just got a guy from the Lexington. We flew back to San Antonio, we still works for the Lexington office, and we can't get it. But he must have been a drug here or something.
Okay.
So he's in the office, but he just hangs out with us, I guess. He just started though. And there's time out here. And three or four of them kind of rotate out here once a week.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the same guy.
That's good. That's so cool.
We keep it as easy to meet.
Yeah.
Counter traffic.
That's true, yeah.
What time do you leave home to work? You go early?
I usually go early so I can miss traffic once a day. So I'll leave here around 6 and
Yeah.
usually leave the office around 5:30 or something.
Is it taking over an hour to go?
No, it's not too bad. You know, the units, it was nice during COVID.
Oh, I bet.
It was only 20 minutes, but maybe 40 minutes or so, you know.
Get the traffic like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
That's it, but
Yeah, you get 1 or 2 accidents.
when we go, we leave at 8. We come here early, start, then we'll leave at 8 and try to get out there. Kind of finish it over here. When we go. Not have to sit there.
Right. It's my turn. Yeah. Yeah, anything else? Figure out.
Oh, 35, that's interesting.
That's right from here. We better just say it's around 5.
Yeah.
Riding every day from San Marcos or
How often are you going up there?
like every week and a half, I average about that. It's like, that's gonna be something like every week, something. That's easy to say, so like, oh, you like it, I love you.
Yeah.
That's the compliment.
You get there. Oh, this is working, man.
The first three were good offers. By the end of the day, they're having out into like wage inspections, all no contingency, just like slow things we kind of.
Yeah. Briefcase money,
Yeah, that's great.
Son on this engineering thing, I'm sure we'll
Yeah, they're gonna make you learn it.
Roll this on into your proposal for vendors. Yeah, I think we got them all on there. I was worried about the west side story. They're gonna walk through them. Got them all. Good there. Did you ever go to the prospect show last weekend? How's it looking? We got a third or fourth, third, two fourths, we did okay. It was okay. Not great. We're. Put them on self-feeder. Whatever you guys think. Are they homegrown steers? You got it too? Yeah, steer, all three of them. American runners here. And some. We have a Maine, but it's kind of got a little gray. Kind of silver with them. So, either class is for sure. Either class there. I don't know if that's going to be good or bad. He's got, market by his name underneath, but yeah. That is good stuff. He said, no one that came over there red, right? He said, well, what would you classify them as? Other, we got another. Yeah. Is that other? You can always make that one. Yeah. Yeah. That's been good. What's the next show on the calendar for you? That's a good question. Usually we go to Irvington, Gulf Shore. some in November, December, kind of right there. I don't know what we want to get this running out. So we just get those, just kind of get another out here too. You just don't agree with some.
I was talking to anyone at church, was asking him if they went, like, no, they said they went last year, he's like, we're going to wait till it cools off a little bit.
We actually still about in the commercial pepper block. It's pretty nice out there. We just got some breeze through. Following, you know, so the rain kind of pay attention. You know, that's, yeah. But they had a lot of animals, man. It was packed. So, they must have done well.
That's good. Yeah.
Just walking through there. Skipping or what, coming every time? School?
No, I haven't made it in a while. It's tough with it.
Texas Denver, said, hey man, somebody called and and they told me to come here. I said, I'm the last one. I'm like, okay. I said, okay, I'm not walking over there.
Yeah.
It's 7:30.
Yeah, I think I had something on the tail of the agenda. I was worried, I wanted to get here for the update that he had on the major thoroughfare stuff. Because I've been reaching out to that engineer. I don't know much anything yet done. And that's going to impact our layouts, you know, and they're just seeing good with one too. You know, if anything, I think we'll maybe go down. So
They weren't aligning the world. But I didn't know the difference.
oh, really?
I told them, I said, hey man, you want to talk to these guys? They're both driving into houses. So we got a cat box a little bit. That works.
Yeah, I got a cat off from Dickerson to help make sure that we match for.
That wall tile?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Every once in a while, he still gets rodeo tickets with my boss. Hey, let's catch up, let's grab breakfast. We do breakfast very often, we don't meet on the road, we shoot the office at 6:30 if you want it. But I told it worked out, so this week, actually tomorrow, Ali's flying up with group of girls in Colorado for this, so I'm sing that. But I'll be leaving down later, because we gotta take care of them, you know, so that could work. So, Brianna, I told my meeting on, Thursday. They say he's gonna try and get some coffee with me or something to watch
Oh, it's here. It's Wednesday, I'm gone.
Yeah, it is Thursday. Yeah, tomorrow's Wednesday. So how are things coming with the renovation plans for the new office location?
I got this, the little. But, I think so, it's really great, but it was either, some rubbish, like, that's pretty quick.
Yeah. It's already done.
I approved work plan.
I didn't know Willie on the side just talking. Since I had to be a very small one, so it goes in there.
Yeah, we'll be not doing.
They're rendering show ice cream, so I'm expecting some ice cream out here on the side window or something.
So we barbecue. So,
Yeah. No, I mean, where the newspaper building had
yeah.
Yeah. Have a threshold down. My goal is down a lot. Little stuff. Yeah. Well, the first proposal we sent out there, we just calls and starts to become more configured. And I told him, I'm sorry, but you get what you pay for. They asked for a record them because they think I'm cheap for it. He ended up signing the proposal, so I looked at the rest of the development. You know, there's one of those deals where if we perform up to the price, what we determine, you know, they get not more.
education, you know, like, you gotta rerun every time you come to this get set. Get set. It's getting a little further. Yeah, I know, this one, you need to get set.
Yeah, we've got one client that changes their mind all the time. They like to, they'll spend $20 to save one, but if they feel like they saved $1, it's their idea, it's worth more than $40 they spent. You know, and so they'll change stuff all the time, and they're just like, let's do it, it's fine. That works from a business standpoint, but from our personnel standpoint, it really demoralizes. You know, I just spent all this time busting my butt and the plans out, and then they want to change it, and they want to send it deadline. You know, it's like, I just spent that weekend out with my family, and most of them were out of town, you know, and so it's tough to have them always value education to that point.
I don't know.
We've got to work, I can use work bus, you know, I think we're going to the same regards, you know, the very case. And it's just, yeah, it creates a need for more people, because you still need man hours to get a job done at a certain time. Working remotely has helped us out. A year before COVID, we invested heavily in really powerful software, plugging them up, computers, like with their desktop. But we never really rolled out, how do we do it? What are the different rules? When do you work remote? Et cetera. So COVID forced that real quick. And that with the online meetings and all that, it gave us the ability to work from home. And it works for people who are trained up personally, you can just knock stuff out. But it doesn't work for the managers or the, you know, trying to grow that culture and stuff. You don't need that basic training. It's not like I can just email you a copy of the UDC here, read this, you know, you need it in person so that you can tell them you're really mad at it.
Really did it first.
Yeah, that's what it was last time. First day, part of it. Really not what it.
Trust me. Trust me, you're gonna get questions. You know, all of it done, so the quicker you go around, the easier. Easier you want it to go back and look it up.
Yeah.
You get old like me, I have to look it up.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
You know, I'm reading that anymore, I'm going to tell you, you're down bad, came on that, pull out the ace and the whole everything. I saw it as a match. It's over. It's over. You said to my boss, can't compete with this.
Here's the application.
Yes, it's okay. Yeah, we are requiring it. That's what our president said, hey, we travel foreign countries, there's things that are required already. So, we're doing this is saying it's one of those, again, taxation would be required. So I don't know how people are okay with that, but I guess this thing is going to go to that school, or I don't know if maybe it's not. I don't know where you guys are on this picture. I'm okay with whatever, man. Yeah, really disappointing. They get much material last week. Whatever FBI agents watching my phone, he's on that. That's all I said. Yeah, your trainers, I can't correct with that. Yeah. Come on, update. It happens after the world, man. Yeah. They come back to the trauma when we yeah. This place walking through the pleasant path.
But they, about 10 years ago, they merged with a big,
I don't know, but it's getting cold in here.
Nope.
but they did Ronald Reagan.
I'm getting tired in here.
Y'all got long sleeve shirts on.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You got your first shirt on.
They wouldn't be able to see you unless you were up here. If you came up and sat in these chairs just for fun, they saw you.
Just tell me when you're ready.
That's a good one.
It's a good thing we left the cameras on.
What's that?
This is historical.
Are you talking about football?
The voices you heard in the background were.
All right, we're gonna reconvene in open session at 9:34. We are not. There are no actions based on items legally discussed in executive session. We're gonna go back.
No.
No, they're not.
Oh, okay.
We're going to go back to number 19, that is, consider and take appropriate actions missing, on a resolution authorizing the execution of a multi-party agreement to conduct due diligence concerning necessary expansion of the city's water and wastewater system to support city development and other matters in connection therewith.
I'd like to make a motion.
Please.
I'd like to make a motion that City Council adopt a resolution authorizing the execution of a multi-party agreement to conduct due diligence concerning necessary expansions of city's wastewater and wastewater system to support city development and other matters in connection therewith.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Discussion on future agenda items, I think we're full. Do you guys have anything?
I think we had enough.
All right. If there's anything, just shoot me an email. We're through the agenda, and we are adjourned at 9:35. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Russell. Thanks, Mr. Welsh.
Not too bad.